But let's get right into it. Talking about the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Me?
Daniel Jones. Not you, no. Daniel Jones. Who, let's be honest, is probably the most polarizing athlete in all of New York City sports right now. I think that's a pretty safe to say thing. Though I think it'd be interesting if we did a poll of who is the biggest waste of money, him or Aaron Judge. I think that'd be kind of an interesting thing to see what happens there. As Aaron Judge is still hitting under 200 right now and also getting paid, I think, like $40 million too. So,
well, it's also he starts off every year slow and second half of the year. That's when he lights it up. Let's be real. He went on that big hit last year.
Under 200 is not slow start. That is a horrible start.
It's still early baseball.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Daniel Jones is polarizing for a lot of things. Let's get into the why he is first, because for those who might not be huge, massive Giant fans or not know the history of Daniel Jones here, a lot of this I still think stems from where he got drafted and who drafted him. I really do think that.
Yes, you're not wrong, because listen, everyone, Barstool Sports, I think just 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, right before the draft, they put recaps of people watching us at pick number 6, take it Daniel Jones, and their reaction. Like,
I was pissed. So I was freaking fuming. I wanted Josh Allen, not the quarterback, the edge rusher.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't take the
They
quarterback.
went, who?
Yeah. And we all knew that year that there was a lot of talks about getting Daniel Jones. We had 2 picks at the time in the first round. We ended up trading even up to get a third one. So, there was no shock that Daniel Jones was the pick. I don't think people thought he'd be the pick at pick 6. Then you get on top of that the fact that Dave Gettleman is the guy who drafts him, who, let's be honest, is probably one of the most hated figures in all of New York Giants history, basically. Then you throw in the fact that he's not been very good lately. It's a combination of all these things here, really. But I really think the haterade was drank right off the bat there. Came in his rookie year, looked for a rookie very good. I mean, let's be frank there. You could potentially even say his best or second best year of his career was that rookie year, just because of the fact that it was a rookie year. Looks kind of on and off for a couple of years there. He's gone through offensive schemes like crazy. He's got bad offensive line. Really hasn't had great receiver help. Even John Mara says, hey, we ruined this kid. Goes into that 5th year. Going into that 4th year. And has probably, what I think is safe to say is his best year, which was 22. 16 games, 67.2 completion percentage, 3,205 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 120 rushes for 708 yards, 7 rushing TDs, and a 92.5 QB rating. Not a bad year.
No, not at all.
I wouldn't sit there and say, great year. We talked about it afterwards. Like, okay, if he can build on this, he's worth signing to an extension. Let's be honest. I love a Giant fans are like now, like, oh my God, we signed this extension. This is the worst thing ever. Oh my God, this is horrible. I was against this from the get-go. Giant fans were freaking rejoicing when we did this. Let me be
100%. I said all through the year, we all thought this is not the deal we wanted, but this is, we were happy we made the decision. Yeah.
It was a deal we had to make. Listen, if we didn't make that deal with Daniel Jones, let's say hypothetically, we let him go. We let him walk.
So to say he goes to New England,
what to say? Whoever takes him. Yeah. It doesn't have to matter what team. Who's our quarterback?
100%. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, 1, who's our quarterback? 2, he goes to another team, and then he lights it up and takes another team to the playoffs. What are we all going to say? Oh my God, Dable, Shane need to lose their job.
Yep.
Hey, you took this deal that's more than we wanted to pay, but it wasn't like the highest paid, wasn't the biggest contract. It looked better on paper than anything else.
Now, hindsight was an overpay. Hell's yes.
Healthy yes, yeah.
Hell's yes. But if hell's to the yes.
Our thing was like, all right, if no one expected him to degress like the way he did. But
oh gosh.
And no one expected him to get injured, which is another thing. He just
I mean, actually, let's be honest. We all kind of probably expect him to get injured. He is injury prone.
All right. Well,
That
it wasn't
part
his
wasn't
neck; it
as
was his
much a
knee. All right,
shocker.
come on. Yeah,
I'm just saying. Well, he hurt his neck and then his knee.
yeah. I'm just saying, if he played the same, we won. It was a good deal.
Yeah, if he played the same last year as he did the prior, then it's a different team.
100%. Like we're back looking on the edge of the playoffs.
Let's go. Here's the numbers real quick on this to give you guys the perspective. So 6 games, 67.5 completion percentage, 909 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 70.5 QB rating. The 22-point drop in QBR, guys. That's not good. 40 rushes, 206 yards, 1 touchdown. In his PFF grade overall last year was literally 63. Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
And we talked about a lot of issues with him. He still has trouble reading defenses, which is just crying shame to be having that issue in year 6, which is what we're obviously now going into. He's a little scared sometimes, it seems, to throw the ball deep. But I think what we got to realize is you got to kind of take out the passion for a second, which is difficult because, listen, people who hate him, let's be honest, with some of those passionate Giant fans you'll ever come across. I get it. It's not the hatred for him. It's more the hatred and frustration for everything he stands, which is a time period of not good Giants football. Let's be very frank on that.
Correct.
So last year, though, the offensive line was basically decimated. Absolutely decimated. By the time he was out there, we got Justin Pugh coming off the freaking couch.
Pew pew.
Yeah, like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
You tell me what star receiver he had. I'm not saying every quarterback is a star, but let's be very frank and say the fact that Daniel Jones at his best is an average quarterback in this league.
He's at best, he's a higher end average. I'm not saying he's above average.
Listen, you always like Daniel Jones a little more than I have. It's okay.
Listen, you didn't think he was going to take us to playoffs last 2 years ago, but guess what happened?
You said he was going to make the Pro Bowl. I also agree with you this year he would just because of how crappy the NFC quarterbacks were. Yeah. Obviously that didn't pan out. But I mean, my whole thing is though, like he's got issues in coming into year 6 he shouldn't have. And I don't think you're going to fix these issues. I think he just cannot read defense as well. I think he just is a little scared because he's been hit so many goddamn times in his career. And I think he's been ruined, to be very frank with you. I don't think that we're going to ever see what could have been the ceiling for Daniel Jones, which is probably above average, not great. I think that would have probably been the ceiling for him before this stuff happened. Now his ceiling is average.
His career, you said, that he's got hit, quite a bit over his career, but last year was the highest pressure hit. Like he was on pace to be as bad as Sam Howell, just getting pressure and hit.
Oh yeah,
like it was bad.
Now, again, we talked about the offensive line's absolutely decimated. There's no star wide receiver. Daniel Jones was dealing with Saquon Barkley being hurt as well. I mean, there was nothing around him. He's not good enough to put a team on his shoulders, guys. He's not.
Yeah.
So I get the frustrations, and I get the fact that a lot of people wish we had got a quarterback this draft. And trust me, I wish we got one too. You guys know if you watch the show regularly, I would have said Michael Penix is 6 and not be any issue with it whatsoever. I think he's that good. I feel bad for him in Atlanta. But that's not the route we went.
Yeah.
And again, the Giants, for some reason, didn't like him as much as Rob and I did. That's pretty obvious.
Well,
they have more access to medical. They have more access to people. They have more access to interview him directly. I'm not going to knock them for the pick unless he balls out once he starts in Atlanta.
I'm not, because I feel like Neighbors is going to probably come in and ball out even with Daniel Jones.
But that's one thing we have to talk about.
I think, and we've pretty much almost agreed with this, that You get that generation talent at receiver because we have not had that in 10 years. And then Penix Jr. should be on the back end coming around. No one expected this many quarterbacks to go that fast. Like,
No,
people want to give you a run.
I think they thought they'd be able to trade back in and get somebody. I really do.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think that was
that.
my prediction. It's like they trade up, they get rid of maybe second pick next year. They get maybe second pick this year and seventh or fifth round pick this year, and you trade up to high 20s, mid 20s, and you get Penix around then.
Yeah.
But he goes number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons, who just picked up Kirk Cousins. No one saw that coming. Not even Kirk Cousins.
He definitely didn't. But now, like I said, you mentioned Malik Neighbors, and I think this is one of the big changes that's going to affect not only obviously Daniel Jones, but whoever throws the ball this year. This is a different QB room. Let's take a step back here, Mr. Peabody's Wayback Machine here for a second, because let's go back to 22 for a second. And I know it's easy for me to sit there and say, oh, let's go back to Daniel Jones' best year. I have trouble counting some of last year because of the injuries, because of the fact they only played 6 games. I'm not saying you ignore it completely, but I don't look at it as a full season of crap. It's a third of a season of crap that, for all we know, he would have come around as the team got healthier. Again, I don't think he ever would have been an all-pro caliber quarterback, but he might have improved to become an average quarterback for the rest of that season. But let's look here for a second at what we had at receiver. You had Darius Slayton, who, let's be frank, also with the first 4 or 5 games barely played at all. The team didn't even want him, really, for some reason, this coaching staff, to be the guy, but he was the guy. They had Richie James, who cannot see the field in Kansas City, which also has one of the weakest, wide receiver groups in the NFL. Isaiah Hodgins, who is the third highest in receiving yards, even though he didn't even start playing there until halfway through the season. Halfway through, guys. You got Saquon, who we talked about it before. Great in open field and stuff like that. And you want to throw him the ball because of that, but he doesn't have the best hands in the world. He's not McCaffrey. He's not Eckler. Daniel Bellinger, a blocking tight end. Wan'Dale Robinson, who started taking form and got hurt when he had 100 yards against the Lions, had 227 yards on the season. Sterling Shepard, we know what happens there. A couple games, got hurt, 100 yards for the season. You tell me where these weapons were. And I get it that, again, he's not going to ever be stellar. But if you're telling me that I have a guy here on this roster that put 3,200 yards up with that group, okay, and then you're going to tell me that same team is going to draft a top flight receiver, which I do think Malik Neighbors is a top flight receiver.
Yes.
When I say top flight, I'm just mean he's going to be a really good one. To what degree, we'll find out as he plays. But top flight receiver in him. You're going to still have Darius Slayton, who's a consistent 700-yard guy basically his whole career. Wan'Dale Robinson, who's shown, I think, that he is a guy who's going to catch the ball quite often. Going to be a guy you and I talked about. We agree. We think he's going to be a 100-yard kind of guy, a 100-catch kind of guy. He's got that ability. You got Jalen Hyatt.
I was about to say, I think especially with Neighbors.
Oh yeah,
being over there, like I think they're going to complement each other.
It's going to open it up for him because you're going to eventually, if Neighbors is as good as we think he is, that's where the attention is going to go. It's going to free up Slade. It's going to free up Robinson. But what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. So we got Jalen Hyatt now, probably potentially the fastest receiver in the league. He beat Tyreek Hill's speed when for clocking him during practices last year. You still got Isaiah Hodgins. This is a much, much better receiver group. We got to take a second to understand how different this receiver group is in just 2 years. For all the complaints that I have at least on the roster, and there's plenty of complaints to be had. Don't get me wrong, this is not a good roster. This receiver group has been turned around. Then you throw in the fact that Bellinger's still there, but you might have Waller, who's a prolific pass catching tight end still when he's healthy. You go ahead and draft a young one in Theo Johnson, who has potential. he's got weapons like he never had. Now you can complain you took away Saquon Barkley. That's a definite downfall. But you aren't throwing to the running back. And again, we talked about Saquon didn't have the best hands. Saquon wasn't good in pass protection either. Let's throw that out there too as well. So Singletary might actually be an upgrade in passing down situations specifically. He's not an upgrade over Saquon as a runner, but he might be an upgrade in passing situations.
So we also have to remember, once again, like you just said, this is because what I'm going to get at, it's going to affect the QB play. So give me a second here.
Yeah.
We upgraded this wide receiver room big time. This is probably not just Daniel Jones's best, wide receiving group. It's probably Saquon Barkley's best receiving group as well. 2 years ago, who did the defense cover no matter what? It wasn't Jones. It wasn't Slayton. It wasn't Shepard. It wasn't Wandell. It was Saquon. When he was healthy, all the teams did was eyes on him. Now, we don't have Barkley. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to try to cover Neighbors a little more. They're going to try to cover Wandell a little bit more. They're going to try, they're going to spread the who's covering what. And it's not so much going to be so much pressure to the backfield. Yes, they're going to try to get at the quarterback. Well, guess what? Quarterback takes a couple steps back. He's under pressure. Singletary, right? Little side lateral comes out. Singletary might have a better year because of the situation.
We'll see. We'll have the running back show there shortly, obviously, too. We'll kind of go over that.
Yeah. I'm not, but that's not what I'm trying to get at.
No, I'm more
because but because of that as well, you know that if you go all blitz at the quarterback and running back, guess what happens? You don't have as many people down the field trying to cover those receivers who are super fast that could run the slants. So guess what? You might have the same amount of time to release the ball, but you have more time to develop the plays because the personnel is not gun-ho going after the one side of the ball.
And that's going to, like I said, that group is going to help, whoever's quarterback here. But I'm just looking at Daniel Jones specifically as this is going to help him huge because, again, we talked about with Mark Ross's comments about how, a good receiver doesn't save a bad quarterback. It doesn't save him, make him great, but it can make him average. If we can get average quarterback play until we can find our franchise quarterback, it's not a bad thing at that point there. It's better than the option of putting some schlub out there shouldn't even be out there at that point, Not that, again, I know people are going to sit there, well, Daniel Jones shouldn't be out there. I get it. It's what we got. Yeah. It's what we got, guys. Now, the other part of the equation is the offensive line. It's been in shambles. They go out this year. We get John Runyon Jr. We get Jermaine Illuminor. We get Austin Schlottman. We get Aaron Stinney. Like, we're signing bodies. We're signing veterans. Guys who have proven they can play in this league.
More importantly, we got a new offensive line coach.
Yes.
Which has been very good in this league, no matter where he was. Yeah. Was he the best? No, but he's made bad lines look good. Made him look average. Like they've been in the better half of offensive line his whole time. But work with the line. So
yeah, and the point I'm getting at basically through all this rant we've just done in the last 10 minutes is imagine
all the quarterbacks.
Imagine putting 2022 Daniel Jones with this receiver group and this offensive line that I think I'm not saying to be a stellar offensive line, guys. I'm not going crazy on that.
Yeah,
but I think they could be an average. They could be an average offensive line, and if they go higher, great.
Which is big improvement.
They actually could be an average offensive line, especially if we get rid of Evan Neal. But let's be honest. Imagine that. So you got 3,200 yards. Is he now a 4,000-yard passer? Is he now a 3,800-yard passer? Now he's showing more legitimate quarterback numbers.
So his best year, 3,200 yards, pretty much. In 2022.
Yeah.
Now you put Malik Neighbors there. Wandell coming out of his shell. You could argue that turtle. better line. Like, you could argue, like, just with those two plays, like the players and the way they're going to play, like, you could argue that he goes over 4,000 yards this year. Possibly.
Yeah, and
Not saying
you
he
know what
will. I'm not saying he will.
big issue with that's going to be and that's we got to get into this part as well. The health concerns. He's coming off ACL injury. We talked about it on many occasions as the Giant fans are obviously all well versed in ACL injuries and recovery. You're typically not as athletic that first year back. So, the running game may not be there as much for Daniel Jones.
I wouldn't expect it.
But I'll play devil's advocate and say if the passing game is that much better, they're not going to stack the box, which might help him as well. So you might not see it horribly. So I think you could see 2022 version or perhaps better of Daniel Jones if he's healthy. And that's not horrible. It's just, can the neck withhold the season? Can that hold up? Will the knee not be an issue at that point? Will he be healthy to start the season? Those are the questions, guys. Or will he get some other random injury? Because let's be honest, he's been a little, injury prone in his career. But if he can stay healthy, guys, I still think, as much as we joke around, as much as we don't like him, as much as we don't think he's a quarterback in the future like that, he's still a guy who works very hard, who's very likable in the locker room and works as a leader. He's a guy that has the best tools and the best situation that he's ever walked into as a New York Giant. And I think he could, like I said, I don't think it's crazy to think that he could have a decent season. I just think it is crazy to count on it. And that's the problem, is we're going to have to.
Possibly.
Because let's be honest, he did regress so bad last year with that. But I think a lot of the issues for him was how many times he was getting hit. Some of them were on him, some of them were on the line. He's got to get better at reading, and I really hope he's doing his homework on that. I don't know if maybe that's why his eyes are all bugging out because he's staying awake late trying to study
all the Adderall.
Defenses. But yeah. So, like I said, he's the starter. Assuming he's healthy, he probably should be the starter at this point. And the big thing is, and we've got it wrapped up here on the injury guarantee part, and that's one thing that comes into this equation as well. So, I mean, if we cut him at the end of the year, we're going to save about $20 million. If he gets injured, there's a clause that money all becomes guaranteed next year. It's going to cost us another $40-some-odd million. From what I'm hearing, there's language in there that's going to be specific type of season-ending injury. You can't just be like, I broke my leg and I'm out for a month. It's got to be like, hey, this is legit. I'm going to be out no matter what time, So it's all depends on what the language is exactly. And that's part of the problem is that Rob and I do not have access to his contract, obviously. We don't know the exact language of what is or isn't covered in this injury guarantee. If it's loose and the Giants feel confident, then go for it. If it's like, hey, if he gets hurt and he's out for the season,
he gets a hang now. And he has to lose 2 weeks.
No matter what, you're gonna have to pay him. Then don't play him, and call it a bust. And call it the end of his career as a Giant for him. But obviously they seem hell bent on playing him. So if that's the case,
I would take that with a grain of salt.
You know what? I would agree with you last week. After the draft, I don't. They didn't make a single move. That means
they didn't.
They're going to sit where they're going to sit.
We watched it all. They did.
I know. We did. We were here live.
Some of you guys out there were live with us as well. So thank you for that.
Yes, you were. Appreciate it.
But yeah, I think it depends on the clause. Like, it depends.
Exactly. We don't have access to
and there's other players that we're going to talk about that maybe he doesn't play, but you're probably right. He may start. You're not always right. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Now don't be sad.
But yeah, he I would like to see him start, and I was team start DJ, but with the clauses and not knowing where his contract is, I would like to know. I would like to have more of a security blanket of knowing
exactly, but
what it is. Like if it's like you said, joking around, we said it's a hang now. If it's a hang now, DJ, we're putting you in a plastic bubble.
Oh goddamn,
you are not going to practice.
Yeah,
you're gonna be a red shirt,
You're not even going to team dinners.
Yeah, we don't want you to fall up the stairs.
Who knows what happened? I might get stabbed by a spork and get out for the season.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, assuming the language isn't crazy, you go for it. You hope he has another year like 22. You hope with the better team around him and the offensive side of the ball that things do improve. Am I confident? No. Not going to be confident. That's impossible to be confident. A guy who can't stay healthy and looked like crap last year. We just got to hope that some of that, at the very least, are the injury issues around him getting hit 10,000 times a game, and hopefully he reverts back to what he was in 22. So that's where we're at. So are we confident? No. Are we hopeful? Yes. We're Giant fans. We have to live on hope. That's what we have left.
Yeah, hopes and dreams. That's what we had since.
We're living on a prayer. So,
just like Bon Jovi, who shut down his service station in 120 as soon as he got it.
And as always, Giant fans,
go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.